Hey guys, it's Reese Creed and welcome back to the Pathway Podcast. Today I am joined with Aisling Moloney, an amazing broadcaster straight from COP26. And I'm so excited to talk to her about her path to where she is today and just how to get into media and the world of media in general. So, hi.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
How are you? I'm so
happy
that you came and joined us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We really, really appreciate it.
I'm excited to get grilling.
Yeah. She's not going to be able to deal with these questions that we have. So, Aisling, just in general, the first kind of question I always ask on this is, what path did you think your life would take in school?
Well, I suppose when I was younger, I kind of knew that I wouldn't do I kind of thought I would do something a little bit different. So I wouldn't do a career that was kind of very well trodden, I suppose, like a primary school teacher or a guard or something that kind of, or an accountant or something that lots of people, saw for themselves sitting in an office and doing all those kind of things. I just knew I wouldn't do something like that. So that was kind of the first inkling that led me kind of to look at different careers. I just didn't think those things suited me as a person. But when I was younger, I also was wrapped up in all the things that you do when you're younger. Like I did drama and I did sport and I did all these different things in stage school. So I loved performing and entertaining. But I kind of knew that was like a hobby and it wasn't a space that I was going to live for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I explored it. Kind of when I went into Leaving Cert, I kind of got more serious about, okay, well, what would suit me and where would I actually see myself? And I think that's a really big thing I did was visualize where I want to be when I'm older, past college and beyond that, much older.
You have tunnel vision.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you have to remember, you're going to work until you're 65 or whatever, until you retire. It's 40 something years of your life. So you better have a good picture or at least some idea of what you're going to be doing for it. That kind of led me down to who am I as a person and what suits me and what type of work suits me. And I think for some people that can be doing something more conventional or more traditional or more of the 9 to 5. That's great. But I just kind of thought that journalism really suited me. And when I landed on it, it was like a light bulb moment.
Oh, that's really, really good. So when you found out journalism was for you, when did you kind of think, okay, I'm going to go and do this as a course? Did you did you go to your guidance counsellor and be like, yeah, I want to do journalism, give me the options?
Well, it's an interesting question because I remember when I was doing the Leaving Cert and you do the CEO in February and then you get the change of mind later on. I remember having the journalism courses stacked up, still not really knowing which one I wanted and whether I wanted to do journalism or something else. And my guidance counsellor said, your mind will make itself up. And that's what it did. It eventually I just said, no, actually, it is journalism. And that wasn't an active thinking. It was more as things were going along, I was actually journalism works for me, which doesn't happen for everyone, and I'm very lucky that it did work out for me that way. But it was kind of a coming to the realization over 2 years. So when I started the Leaving Cert in 5th year, I still wanted to do medicine at that stage. And that was a thing for me for a while. I was I want to do medicine.
Two majorly different words.
And I said, I'm going to do chemistry in my Leaving Cert and I'm going to do biology. And then the first day I went into the chemistry class, I was like, okay, this isn't for me. I have no clue what's going on. And I was quite good at school and I was quite a swot and I liked being good at subjects. And when I wasn't immediately good at chemistry, I was like, okay, well, there's something wrong here. So I switched from chemistry because I just went with the instinct that, look, something's not right here. And the only other class that was available because the timetables was economics. Okay. Something that I was like, I'm never going to do business. I hate business. I'm never going to and all that I hate about subjects. I'm so annoyed when I hear young people say that.
Yeah.
Because I said that and then I went into economics and I was like, oh my God, this is the subject for me.
Just to be more open to things.
It felt like it was just me and the teacher in the class every day. I would be asking them all sorts of questions.
Mad.
And then I studied economics with my journalism degree. So that was a big thing for me of just kind of, following your instinct and then realizing that maybe the things that you said, I don't like that or I don't like that, they can sometimes actually prove to or naturally to work out for you or to be something that you do like.
So could you kind of tell me, obviously then you started in journalism and media in UL. So how did that journey go from doing journalism as a course and then making it a job?
Yeah, and that's a great question as well, because it's a tough career, and like lots of people warned me before I went to college, oh, you'll never make money in journalism, you'll never have a steady job, all those things. And again, it was something that I had to decide early on. Is my life goal just to go into a job and make lots of money, or is my life goal to do something else? And I decided that it was to have a career that, as a person, I was quite fulfilled, or at least I was doing something I was quite proud of.
Yeah.
And yeah, like obviously it's great to make lots of money, but sometimes that's not, if you hate what you're doing every day, I don't think that's worth it.
What's that thing they say? It's like,
If you
you'll never work a day
yeah.
in your life if you love what you do. Or,
Yeah, but at the same time, I also would say to young people that, again, you're working for 40 years. You're never going to like every day of your job. Like there's plenty of days where I'm like, oh my God, do I have to get out of my pajamas and go into work today? Like I would love to stay at home and do nothing, but you have to. And, you know, if you like your job more often than you don't, then obviously that's great. But sometimes like it's just the day to day of it. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, yeah, it did. And like, so what I really want to kind of get into is the day in the life of you, and kind of what a day in the life of someone in media looks like. You're obviously on our TV screens, you're on our radio waves. So what does it kind of look like when you go in on a Monday morning?
Yeah. And sorry, I didn't actually answer your last question properly either. So let me just answer that.
Yeah,
so when I went into journalism, I knew that I wanted to do it. And then when I got there, it was all very serious. Like, oh, you need to be writing articles, you need to be doing all these things. And I just took on the challenge and did those things, got the experience I needed to get. And I didn't listen to anyone who said, oh, you can't do that, or that's unrealistic, or, you know, you will never get that, because I did things like went to London for my work experience and worked for the Daily Mail, which is a massive news organization. And people would have said, oh, don't bother with that, go and work with a local newspaper. And I had done those things. So I said, I'm not going to limit myself, and I'm going to go and, you know, shoot for whatever I can, and then hopefully land somewhere in the middle maybe. So yeah, that's what I did. And I just tried to get as much experience as I could when I was in college. And that's, for journalism, that is like the key. Like, you just need experience. I often think that a degree is not really anything in journalism. It's more the experience you get, you know. And there's plenty of people who didn't do journalism degrees, who did different degrees and then just got loads of experience. So that is kind of the experience. And then when I came out of journalism, I obviously had enough experience to prove to someone that I was worth the job in RT. But then there was lots of things that I did that people were like, oh, you were great on you can present, or, you know, your broadcasting is great. Where did you learn those things? And I'm like, well, there's no quick and simple thing I did for it. There's plenty of things I did throughout my life like that prepared me. I loved speech and drama when I was younger.
Yeah.
I loved public speaking and speech writing, those kind of things. So like those things prepared me for that, rather than anything I sat down and learned. But yeah. So then, and to answer your other question about the day in the life, which is a great question, because again, that's something about visualizing,
of course,
what you're going to do. So like my hours are all over the place. I could be working some weekends. I could be working very, very early shifts or very late shifts, or you could be working long shifts. So it's different every day. Honestly, I'm on like a 5-week cycle of different weeks.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, and then I've worked on different desks in the newsroom, so it's completely different depending on what desk you're working on. But that's why I did this, because I wanted a job where I did different things all the time, and it wasn't.
You probably are never bored.
No, never bored. Always on your toes. Yeah. And like that can be like a positive and a negative. Sometimes you're like, oh my God, I wish I could just work 9 to 5 and have my weekends off and not have to, you know, do this or that. But then I'm sure if I was in that job, the grass is always greener, I would be like, oh, I wish I was doing what I wanted to in journalism and working all these weird hours and stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it gives me the scope to go off. And I went abroad for RTE to cover the COP26 UN climate change summit.
Yes.
So like they're the things that I want to do. I always pictured myself like going abroad, like being a foreign correspondent or something. That's what I really want to do. So.
And on even that topic of COP26, like what is one of your like most favorite things that you've kind of presented on, that you've broadcasted on? I know that you've done so many different areas, from children's TV to hard-hitting news. What do you think really gets you going?
Well, I think, to be honest, it's just news, and news is anything that's new. So, and that's kind of where sometimes the job of a journalist is quite, you can be a jack of all trades and a master of none, because you have to know a lot of things or jump into something quite quickly. But that's the challenge, and that's kind of the excitement of it all. And I presented, so I used to work for the children's news, or the children's news television program, News Today, and we had a 10-minute program every day and presented that. But I also was a reporter on it. So, it's another thing about you're looking at what careers you want. There are the flashy, showy bits of some careers, which are like the cool things that everyone will say, oh, I'm going to college to study this because I saw this person on the television. That's not 99% of the job is not that. That's 1% of the job. And it's the percent of the job that requires probably not as much of the hardcore kind of training that the rest of it does. So yeah, like I presented the youth assembly on climate, where they got like 100 and something kids and brought them to the Dáil, and they discussed climate change and climate action and all that stuff. And we got to host that, which was amazing, because we'd like three-hour long programs that day, where we had to like top and tail the Dáil session, and we got to talk about what they were talking about and all that kind of stuff. And then at one stage the Dáil session was late coming back, so I had 20 minutes of dead air to fill, which is really difficult on live television.
I can only imagine the stress.
Yeah. So, but in those moments is when you get to really, flower and show what you can do. So I was able, for those 20 minutes of dead air, I had stuff prepared to say, I had things ready to discuss, I had things ready to talk about. And, lots of the people in the gallery were like, well done, Brian Dobson would have been proud of that, so like, because he's like the king of just going off book. So they're the kind of moments in journalism and media where like you get to show like those kind of things, and they're crazy situations that people are like, how did that happen? But they're the things that you're like, oh yeah.
And it's always those unexpected kind of things that always get the best kind of like viewing, I feel.
Totally. Yeah.
But with that, there's obviously positive and negatives to every single job out there. I know there's positives and negatives to my job and my 9-to-5 job here in the office. So what would you kind of see as your main positives and your main negatives of what you do?
And that's a great question as well. And I think it's something that any young person needs to be asking themselves when they're deciding what they want to do, because I love a pro and con list. I love to weigh up any decision I make. I'm always like, okay, what are the pros? What are the cons here? And what am I giving more weight to?
And hopefully the students got that from decision making in our module. We have that brought in so that you can make those pros and cons lists, and you can kind of look to the future when you're making decisions.
And it's so important to weigh all, you can't like make a decision without thinking about lots of things associated with that. So I suppose I think obviously the positives of my career outweigh the negatives, but for some people they won't. So the hours are crackers. Like, you're never gonna, if you work a 9-to-5 job in journalism, give me a ring, because I want your job, because there's no one that works that. It's long hours. It's, I can't, like, I don't even know if I've ever had a lunch break, like, and I rarely, like, I'm like an intermittent faster now. Like, I never have lunch during work because I'm so busy. So, or you're eating in your car, or you're getting like petrol station food, like, things that lots of people would be like, oh, I can't deal with that. But look, I deal with it for the rest of the positives. But that's kind of what you're looking at, and it's tough work, but at the same time, in saying that, I get to work like on my own in a way, in some, which I quite like. You're on your own story. I work with the crew and the cameramen and all that, but now I've been working a lot with mobile journalism, so doing everything on my own, so which is great. Like, you can kind of really execute your own vision. So in that way, that's great. That's definitely a positive.
And with the mobile journalism, sorry, that's just something you brought up there that I really want to like tap into. So like, how would you do it by yourself? Like, because you always kind of like see these broadcasters and you see like a team of people around them. So how would you go about how would you go about it like by yourself?
So I have just everything is my own equipment. I film off a phone. I have my own microphones attached to it. I just set up and film, and like the hardest thing about that is filming pieces to camera for myself, because I can't. I have to put on selfie and then the camera's not as good. But like, even last week I was over at COP26 as a mobile journalist, and I interviewed the Minister for Environment, Eamon Ryan, twice on my phone. So like, it just shows you the capabilities, So but I like that, because I have full And then I edit everything myself. So like I'm a producer, I'm an editor, I'm a journalist, all in one, you know. So that's a really positive about the job. You know, other negatives are like it's stressful. There's a lot of anxiety associated like with it, you know. At the end of the day, they're my reports and my name is on them, and
Of
I'm trying
course.
to become or trying to be a reputable journalist with integrity. But if I get something wrong, it's my name,
Of
you know.
course.
So you
It's
can tarnish, or you know, there's a lot of stress associated with you know, am I 100% correct with all this, and it's my name going out there, you know. I have to be able to stand over this, which obviously you do as a journalist, but there's just a stress associated with all that. So maybe that's not worth it for some people, you know. They don't want that kind of you know, stress or anxiety around their job. Now, like, I mean, it's what kind of fuels me, and the deadlines are intense.
of
And I was only
course.
talking to my boyfriend about it recently. He was like, "Oh my God, like your deadlines are crazy. Is this always what it's like?" You know, I was on the phone at home trying to get things going. And I was like, "Yeah, it's what it's like every day." And he said, "I couldn't deal with that." And I said, "To be honest, if I wasn't doing it like this, I'd be bored." So
Yeah.
there, you know, it just suits me as
You
a
kind of
person.
like the stress.
Yeah. I know it's crazy to
But
think
like,
it.
no, but I know even with some things in my job, like I do love stress sometimes because it makes me
Yeah.
more creative. It makes me, you know, work better and under like all these like stressful deadlines. It's like I just think my best work gets out of that.
Yeah,
So
totally. So if you like pressure, and that's something that all the tests that you do when you're leaving cert, like the DATs or whatever I think it's called or something. But anyways, we did some test or something, and like one of them was speed and accuracy, and I got like 100 on that because you
oh
just had to do
wow.
everything really quickly. And like, you know, they called out the numbers and you had to like write
Yeah,
them
yeah.
down really quickly, and I did really well on that. And they were like, "Oh, that would do well for journalism," because you're just under pressure, you know. But yeah, exactly, you feed off it, and that's what I like, you know. That's where the job is, that's where you're like focused and you're
I
like,
know,
oh.
yeah.
So that's what I like about it. But for some people that obviously would not be. But also don't be like intimidated by it, because
No, because you never know until you're in it.
you don't know till you're in it. And also sometimes it's those moments where you really flower under pressure. So, you know, like a diamond.
Exactly, exactly. So even from that, like how do you feel like you like decompress after a day of work like that? Like
Oh, that's
how do you just kind of go, okay, this is what I've done today. Now just chill out for like
yeah. Well,
2
I'm
minutes.
actually still trying to figure out how to do that. So, yeah, like I mean, it's a tough one, like to kind of reel back after all that and be like, "Phew." And like sometimes I can be like agonizing over like, oh, I mispronounced that word, or I shouldn't have said it like that. I should have said it like this. And so I'm still trying to like
It can be
figure
something where
that out.
you could get like self-critical a lot.
Oh yeah, like I'm definitely my own worst critic. But then obviously social media, the way you can see everyone's comments under your stuff as well, like that can be tough. People DMing you being like, "I didn't like what you did there."
And
So
do
like
you get
that's a
that a
big.
lot? Do you get like,
Not I don't, because I'm you know, a straight white Irish girl.
of
But
course.
there are people in the career who get loads of flack and get really serious abuse. So I'm really privileged to not get that. But then again, you do get people, you know, you see you know, my content, or like what I'm doing is a public service media. So like
Of
the
course.
public are who I'm servicing, and they're the ones watching my stuff. So of course they're going to critique and all that. And sometimes it's great. You get great praise off someone. "Oh, I saw your report in the telly and it was lovely." Or sometimes you get kind of people like, "Oh, I didn't like that," or "I didn't like that." So that's another, you know, negative. Well, it's sometimes a positive and sometimes a negative about the job, that you are open to public criticism, because that's who you're serving.
Yeah, because it's I just know from people that I would see through the media, it sounds like I know that I'm my worst critic as well, and I'm also really bad at taking criticism.
Yeah,
So like I feel like that one negative comment would be going in my head all the
exactly.
time.
Yeah.
But do you feel like those kind of like, you know, comments that you get where it's like, oh, I didn't like, you didn't do that as well, or those kind of push you on to do it better the next time, or
Yeah, I know, but also, you know, you have to temper other people's feedback. Like I
yeah,
take obviously my news editor's feedback better than I would take someone off the street, nearly because they don't really know probably what went into it.
of
Do you know, they
course.
don't understand the pressure you were under or whatever. So, you know, you kind of have to temper it. And I'm getting better with doing that. And it's a real skill that you have to learn. Like, oh my God, I couldn't take criticism at all when I was younger. But I'm getting better at it. And I think most people who are going to give you the best feedback are going to give you constructive criticism. They're not just going to critique you to take you down. So they're the people you need to listen to.
Perfect. And on that, where do you kind of see like your future going? What would be like your dream broadcast? What would be your dream thing to cover? I know that you recently just did COP26. That's a massive one. But what would you like to see in the future?
I just like to kind of go abroad more and
Washington.
Yeah, but like I don't really know, to be honest. I just want to keep going what I'm going, and just keep continuing to do stories and reports and build my name, or start building my name as some reputable journalist with integrity that people can trust, and they say, oh, Ash Moloney had a report on and it was great, or it was this, or it was that. Just to have more, to keep doing stories and make sure that they're impactful, and telling people's story is really important.
Perfect. So one question I have for you is, like, what tips would you give to someone maybe who wants to get into this line of work, like someone that's maybe at home going, I like the sound of that.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them?
Well, actually, I like the sound of that. It's a great place to start, but don't get sidetracked by it, because you have to look at the whole picture of what you're getting yourself into, because the worst thing you can do is just say, I like the sound of that, and go with the best sounding things of the career, and then just launch into it, because you will get a sore wake up, when you go to college, or wherever you go, or whatever you do, the realities of the career will come at you. And speaking from media, they will.
Yeah.
And if you go to college, your lecturers will make that really clear at the start, because they want to make sure that people are in it for the long term, and in it to win it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, to get to the end, and to make something of themselves and their name. So if you're in school and you are thinking of journalism or media or something like that, and it's a huge caveat, like,
it really
and
is.
I can do a lot of things with journalism now. I'm choosing to be a journalist, but there's plenty of other things that I could go into with it. So make sure you look at what's the broader sense of what you could be, and not just do tunnel vision too early, because that was something that a lot of people that I went to college with would have been like, oh, I want to be a presenter. And I was like, oh my God, why are you pigeonholing yourself? You're 19
and
or
I feel
whatever.
like that was me. Like, I felt when I went into New Media English, which was a very, very similar kind of course to what you did, I was like, I'm going to be a journalist, and I'm going to write stories, and I'm going to work in a magazine, and like all that. Do you, when you kind of see that glamorized kind of like, view of what a journalist is, when you see, like, obviously you've just said it to me here, like, it's long hours, it's being in that world, whereas I just saw it as, oh my God, I write my little story and I pop it to the editor, and then I'm that's my job. So, like, I got that rude awakening.
Yeah.
But it's
good to get that early as well. It's nothing to kind of fool yourself for too long. So yeah, and I suppose if you want to do journalism, I would say number one, that university is not the only route.
Of course.
And I personally, something that I'd love to do when I'm older is try and reshape how people get into the career, because it's a privileged career, actually. I'm very privileged to have been able to go to university, to have gotten through the 4 years, and to have been able to do some unpaid work, which is a big part of the career. You're going to have to do some unpaid work, but I would just really caution anyone going and doing unpaid work to do it at the right time.
Of course.
If you're going to do it when you're in university, or when you're doing an apprenticeship or something like that, and don't leave it until afterwards. You have to do it then, get the experience, no matter what it is, just get into it. So something I would love to do when I'm older is reframe how people get into it, which is, I think it could be apprenticeships. It would be much better for journalism. I mean, we have great local media in this country. I mean, my own town, Dungarvan, has 2 local papers.
Limerick
massive,
has loads.
Limerick was a great place for local news, and Limerick Leader is such a reputable, and the Limerick Post is great as well.
And the Limerick Voice for Students, which is really good as well.
There's lots, and all the local radio stations. So we've got such a wealth of opportunity in this country, in your local places, and in anywhere that you go. Whenever you're qualified or whenever you're looking for a job, they will look for local news experience. So get into that. Like, even if it's going on your local radio and reviewing the cinemas or something, or the the films, or
even
talking
just starting your own like little blog or something like that. I feel like that's kind of how I stumbled into what I'm doing now. Like, I started on Instagram, and I started it was like my own little mini TV program that I could edit myself, and that I would kind of brand as myself, and it would be exactly what you do. Let's just say like in RTE. So basically you can do your own things and you can write your own blogs. Like I know even with me, when I started my Instagram page, it was something that I did on the side. I just wanted to kind of get my personality out there, get the way I spoke out there. And it was like my own little TV show that I could edit. And that has led me to do social media for a living, which I never would have thought. So it just really shows that if you have a passion for something, you can make it work.
Totally. Well, yeah. And I mean, anyone looking to get into journalism, I think you just need to get in contact with your local paper and your local radio station and try and get those things going, whatever you're writing or whatever you're broadcasting. It's just experience you need to just get into it. But then also, as you said, to try and do your own things. Like I loved shooting and editing my own films when I was younger. When I was a teenager, like I would have made all the videos for like our class graduations and stuff. And like, 2 weeks before my leaving cert, I was staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning editing those videos rather than like studying. So like it was obvious that I was going to go and do that. And that's most of my job now, is editing VT. So like, there you go. And that was just me like liking it and doing it, And
you have to have a passion for it, unless it's just...
Yeah, but that's what they look for if you go into the career. And then also, as I said, you don't have to go to university. You can be creative about these things, try and get experience. It's just the main thing with journalism.
It really is. And I've noticed that from so many different people that were in my course. It was experience. It was going, doing things unpaid. It was going, doing their own reports. It was joining different clubs and societies, all that kind of stuff, and getting the experience that way. So I think we're going to wrap this up now, Aisling. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate you having this chat with me, and good luck in the future. We can't wait to see you all over our screens and our airwaves and everywhere that you are. So guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Obviously, follow our socials at My Pathway Journey, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. We're everywhere. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Bye.